everybody. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. This is our 10th bonus show. Made it to 10, so not bad. And my name is Henry, and no Chloe this time around. She wanted to be here, but was unable to. But joining us once again for yet another bonus show is our friend Jacob Bowers.
Hello.
Or Jacob number 1, as he's also known. So thanks for coming back on.
Finally made it.
Yeah. And because of some of her big recent films like Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, as well as, I guess, Avengers Endgame earlier this year, we are going to be talking Scarlett Johansson. And we have 6 films of hers to talk about over the course of her career. This time we have Ghost World, Lost in Translation, Don John, Her, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and Lucy. So kind of a good mix of films of hers to talk about. And yeah, it's she's my favorite actress, Jacob.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. We talked about Kristen Stewart last time. And first of all, if you have downloaded the show, thank you so much, because it goes to help support the weekly show.
Did you get some downloads?
We did, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. People seem to like it, so
that's good.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, what's your background with Scarlett Johansson? Are you much of a fan?
Yeah.
Are you?
I think the first thing I ever saw her in was Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
I think she was in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where she first appeared as Black Widow.
Yeah. And then proceeded to see her in all of those. You know, I've seen like Under the Skin.
All the Marvel movies,
yeah,
of course.
All the things we've listed here today.
Yeah, well, Scarlett Johansson, for me, she's up there with she is my favorite actress, I would say. I don't love everything she's in, but I think something about her is kind of stuck with me. I think the first thing I saw her in was maybe Match Point, the Woody Allen movie, or maybe Avengers. I don't think it was that late in, though. Maybe it was the Black Dahlia, the Brian De Palma movie from the early 2000s, yeah. And I think that this past decade, we just ended the 2010s. I think she's really blown everything out of the water. She's been in so many big movies as well as some really, really great indie movies. And so I think she's really grown as an actress in many ways. And so I'm glad we're talking about her.
Yeah, I really wanted to see Jojo Rabbit. But I mean, it's kind of my own fault, because I was just waiting for it to come to Regal, because I was like, I got this pass, go see it for free. It never came to Regal, but it was at Red Cinemas like the whole time. I could have just gone to see it, but I didn't.
It's good though. I think you'd like it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump in? Got plenty to talk about.
Sure.
Start off with Ghost World, which that one came out in 2001.
Really?
Yeah, a long time ago.
I thought it was like the 90s.
Yeah, early 2000s. And it's directed by Terry Zwigoff. Is it Zwigoff? Zwigoff? I'm not sure.
Probably Zwigoff.
And it stars Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi, Bob Balaban, and those are kind of the few big names. And the synopsis is, with only the plan of moving in together after high school, 2 unusually devious friends seek direction in life. As a mere gag, they respond to a man's newspaper ad for a date, only to find it will greatly complicate their lives.
Oh, what does that mean?
Exactly. Yeah, you'll have to find out. So this one made $8.8 million against a $7 million budget, so a pretty small
not bad
movie, yeah. However, it has become a bit of a cult film. Like, they released it on Criterion, which I got when it came out, and I don't hear too many people talk about it, but I know that there is a following for it for sure. Jacob, had you seen this prior to us talking about doing the show, or
No, the three that I watched last night, I had not seen prior. I had seen the first half hour of Lost in Translation. I don't know why I never went back to it. I think I just forgot about it.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll get to that. But Ghost World, no, I hadn't seen it. It was on my watch list, so I knew of it, but I hadn't seen it. Yeah, Scarlett Johansson's real young in that movie.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi is in this movie.
Yeah.
He's always funny.
Yeah. I had seen this one. I hadn't seen it since I got the Criterion. I just kind of blind bought it because it was on sale, and I was curious about it. And having seen it twice now in the span of about a year, I don't think I'm really a fan of it. It's very much of the time. It has this late 90s, early 2000s cynicism to it, where like they just hate everything, and it's very mundane and washed out and dull looking. Not, I mean, intentionally so, but it's just about everybody hating the world all the time. And I think that having missed it when it came out, I think that kind of makes it feel pretty dated and not really in the best way all the time. I think sometimes it does, but as the movie goes on, it gets a little tiring. I don't really love Thora Birch. I think she's a little obnoxious, and I do like Scarlett Johansson, although I think that similar to what we were talking about with Kristen Stewart, I think seeing where she goes as an actress as her career progresses, I don't think that this is a standout performance of hers. And again, she was very young, so I'm not blaming her totally for it, but I think in retrospect, I don't think she's amazing in it. I like her chemistry with Thora Birch, but not. I think Steve Buscemi is the standout in this, if there was to be one. And I think that it's pretty plotless and pretty narrativeless, which I like about it. However, I think that it does kind of bring up a question of, I don't really get why we're watching it. I don't really get a huge message from it. And again, it did come out, I guess, before a lot of recent coming of age comedies that may have been inspired by this. I don't know, but it just feels a little been there, done that at this point. So, although I can see the appeal. If you saw it when it came out, I could see how someone could be attached to it.
Yeah, that's like, I guess that's like the problem with making movies that are reflective of the time that they're being made in. What I mean, like, I feel like it's kind of the point of making movies. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, movies are usually reflective of the time that they come out in.
I would agree.
They reflect the world, and the messages are usually about the real world. But I agree that I think I would have had to seen it in 2001 and been of an age to understand and appreciate it, to completely appreciate it.
Yeah.
I liked it. But I agree that it was a little hard to enjoy. And of course, in 2001, I was like 6 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was 7, I think.
Yeah. So probably wasn't going to be watching this movie.
Probably not.
But yeah, Scarlett Johansson's not even like the main character in this movie. She's like the sidekick.
Yeah. The best friend.
Yeah. I think she works well in that role for this movie.
Yeah.
Like you said, Steve Buscemi, he's always great.
Yeah.
I love him and everything.
His weird teeth.
Yeah, he's just
always great.
He's just funny guy. And he was also pretty young in this movie.
Yeah. Because he had been doing some work with, I guess he'd done Fargo a couple years prior to this, and yeah, all the work with the Coen brothers. And even though I don't love the movie, I think that it does have a charm to it at times. Like, I think the idea of this 18-year-old, or however old she is, teaming up with this middle-aged geeky guy to get him dates, I think is funny. I think which kind of happens as the story develops, and that relationship is uncommon and different, and something I haven't really seen much of before, or even since then. And that keeps it going. And I think that I do like Scarlett Johansson's raspy voice, like young voice, which she hasn't lost in translation as well. And I think that she has an innocence to her which works, I think. I don't know if she always totally pulls off the high school cynicism that Thora Birch has, that like punk rock kind of take on the world kind of mentality. But I still think she fits into the main triangle pretty well, and I think it also has a good set of small characters that just pop in and out, like the guy at the gas station with his shirt off, who's like the country guy. That's fun, and the world is well built. I think it's just that by the end, I don't know if I totally loved the experience of being there or got that much out of it, but it's pretty cleanly directed, and I like the angle of these Steve Buscemi collecting records and the focus on music, and how a young, impressionable person can be, their personality or taste can be so easily changed from one day to another. Like Thora Birch has the green hair one day, and then the next day she washes it out. Things like that, and which totally happen in high school and college all the time, And well, actually, one thing with that, do you think that the scene where she dyes her hair green in front of the mirror was the inspiration for Joker? The inspiration for Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, perhaps.
I don't know. Many people might disagree with this. I think in spirit, it reminds me of High Fidelity.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like teen spirit, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, just, that was the 90s, I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
So a little bit of a different feel from the early 2000s, but 2001 is so close to the 90s. But I just felt like the same cynicism existed. It just, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this just reminds me of movies like High Fidelity and other just like early 2000s, 90s high school comedies. Just sort of, like you said, plotless, wacky, cynical, probably relatable to people that went to high school in the 90s.
Yeah. And it does even feel similar to how high school still is. There's always that wanting to both rebel from everything, but also be accepted in one way or the other.
Right.
And so I think that's something the movie does pretty well. And yeah, I would agree with that. It fits into a genre or a form of that time for sure.
Did you know they're remaking High Fidelity?
Are they?
Yeah. I think it's like a TV series or something.
Yeah. And with Scarlett Johansson, I guess she had done The Man Who Wasn't There around this time.
Oh, yeah.
I think the same year.
She was in that.
Yeah. And
we watched that for class.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, which I hadn't seen before that, so that was a cool experience. And then I guess she went on to do Girl with the Pearl Earring and Lost in Translation and The Black Dahlia and some other of those early films.
She did a lot of noir films in her early career.
She did, which I think she fits in very, very well. That just her natural look, I think, is good for that. And she was also in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Really?
Oh, yeah, as the King Neptune's daughter. Great role. Maybe that was the first movie I saw her in, or her voice at least.
I guess technically, yeah, that would be the first movie I saw her in. I just didn't know it was her.
Yeah, and then she went on to do The Island as well with Michael Bay. But anyways, I enjoy the 50s diner that they go to meet Steve Buscemi at the beginning.
That's my favorite scene.
Yeah. And it is, for everybody who's been to high school, which is most people, I'm guessing, there is something about that dynamic that's just hard to fully dislike. And I think that no matter what, like we were going to talk about with the Blake Lively show, which I think we'll do at some point with Accepted, the one with Justin Long and Blake Lively. Cool. Just that fun, wacky high school drama is really enjoyable to me, at least. Maybe not to everybody, but I always have a soft spot for it. And yeah, it's not a favorite of mine for sure, but I think there's definitely an argument as to why it's held in such high acclaim for some people. So
right. Justin Long has had an interesting career.
Yes. Yeah.
He's been showing up in some like every now and then I'll get sponsored ads on Facebook for these small little film studios that are just like independently owned that no one's ever heard of, and they'll have like a trailer for some movie they've made and like Justin Long is just in it. I'm like, oh
yeah.
Right.
And
I saw like John Turturro in one of them.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, Justin Long was in the Kevin Smith movie a few years ago, Tusk, right?
I've never seen that movie and I don't want to.
It's not great. It's not great. I'm not a big Kevin Smith fan anyways, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Johnny Depp is really good in it, though.
I like Clerks.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I don't know. Kevin, like...
Chasing Amy. I like Chasing Amy.
Kevin Smith is just...
not your thing.
I like the guy. I just don't much care for his movies.
Yeah.
That movie, the most recent movie he made. Well, I guess technically the most recent one he made would have been the sequel to Jay and Silent Bob or whatever. But
yeah.
The one before that with like his daughter in it.
Oh, Yoga Hosers?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Lily Rose Depp.
I heard that
Johnny Depp's daughter.
Crazy.
It's not very good. It's even worse.
Like, yeah, crazy bad.
Yeah. Anyhow, anything else about Ghost World?
I know we've talked about not caring for it, but I think everyone should watch it.
I think so. It's a influential movie, I think, of the early 2000s, and so I would agree with that.
I liked it.
It is kind of a sad movie,
yeah,
in many ways, just because it's dealing with these high schoolers who are so unsure of themselves, and then also with Steve Buscemi, who is really struggling to just stay afloat. You know, he has this big record collection, and nobody really cares, aside from people exactly like him, and he can't really get dates or anything like that. But there are still moments of happiness for sure, but it is kind of a more dour movie than you might expect. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but it's not a totally feel-good movie, for sure.
I know I keep saying I liked it and then also saying I didn't care for it, but I mean, it's hard for me to actively dislike things when there aren't just like any immediately awful things about, you know, I mean, like Yoga Hosers or whatever. It's like that's just bad.
Yeah,
but it's like this movie's not bad.
No, so, definitely not. Yeah, we should do a retro review of Yoga Hosers at some point.
I'm easily entertained and not very critical. I can be critical when it's required of me, but generally just choose not to be, because
it's easier, man. It's more fun.
Find that you're more satisfied when you're not critical.
Yeah.
You walk out of the theater and you just feel good.
Yeah.
Instead of just feeling, sad, disappointed.
Is that what you did with Rise of Skywalker, Jacob?
Yeah. I was like, that was a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Things happened.
That's what most people are saying.
It was action. It was exciting.
Yeah.
I just want to see the lightsabers.
Yeah. That's fair. All right. Well, out of 5 stars, Jacob?
3.
3 for me. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's get to a big film that people are just obsessed with, which is Lost in Translation, which came out in 2003 and is written and directed by Sofia Coppola. And along Scarlett Johansson, it stars Bill Murray, and that's kind of and I guess Giovanni Ribisi as well, and Anna Faris, very briefly as well.
This is, I believe, Jacob number 2's favorite movie.
He loves it. Yeah, he loves Sofia Coppola as well.
Yeah.
And the synopsis is: a faded movie star and a neglected young woman form an unlikely bond after crossing paths in Tokyo. This one made $119.7 million against a budget of $4 million. So pretty big hit for sure, and was pretty widely acclaimed critically and with audiences. And it's definitely had a shelf life over the years. And it's one that I am constantly hearing from best of the 2000s and is a favorite of many people, like we just said.
We keep hearing all this stuff about theaters dying, people not going to theaters anymore, but I don't know. I feel like movies make more money these days. I feel like I'm always hearing about the latest movie just hit $1 billion,
Yeah.
It's like,
I think, not to get too off track, but I think it's almost select movies that are making that money, and then it's a ton are not making any at all.
No.
Like the middle budget movie is kind of dying, But I mean,
family movies.
Yeah, but there are still plenty of movies that are making tons of money. So that's for sure. Anyhow, Lost in Translation. This movie I got to is similar to Ghost World, kind of late. Although I saw this one maybe in college, I think, probably because of Jacob Swafford told me to, more than likely. And I like it a fair bit. I don't like it as much as some people do, but I still think it's a very experiential, soothing, for lack of a better word, film that I think exhibits a lot of Sophia's best qualities in terms of a location feeding someone's personality and motivation, and as well as a story that when it ends, it has the characters reflecting on what's just happened, and so then therefore it kind of makes you do the same thing. And similar to that with The Bling Ring, which we did on the show, the regular show, where these people are robbing all of these or burglarizing all of these houses, and then they're caught at the end and they're having to reflect on what's just happened. And so she does those two qualities very well, and it's very much a signature part of her style, and it being very plotless.
It's a movie for lonely people, right?
It is, yeah. It's quite lonely. Yeah, she's...
I like Sofia Coppola. I think it's one of those... because I won't say it's a rare case, but a lot of celebrity children will go on to do what their parents do, whether that be acting, directing, writing, and it doesn't always work out. Sometimes it just feels like they had the door left open for them and just kind of rode the success. But and then some people actually prove that they deserve it, and I think Sofia is a powerhouse director.
Yeah,
just like Francis Ford.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I love Sofia Coppola all the time, but I think whether you like it or not, she is an auteur for sure, and she's had an impact in many ways, and more so than a lot of other directors. And she is still one that no matter what she does, I do want to watch it, just because it is nice to see someone so confident in their own style. And I think this one, it makes sense as to why this is a favorite amongst many Coppola fans. I think that it has just enough of the experiential side, but also it has that relatable feeling or question of, is it worth it to enter in a doomed romance or a relationship of some kind by the end of the movie? Is it? And then also just having these moments in time, is it worth it to do something even though you may, it may not always last. Mm-hmm. And I think that, yeah, as you said, it dealing with loneliness as well, because they're both in this completely foreign place. They don't really know anyone, and they just latch on to each other, and they're both at certain places in their lives that are very open-ended, whereas Scarlett Johansson is... Oh, the sun's out. Scarlett Johansson is young and trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life, whereas Bill Murray is towards the end of his career and is kind of seen as almost as a joke.
Washed
and
up.
Yeah, it doesn't have much self-worth either, and they help inject new life into each other through both, I would say, friendship and then possible romantic affection as well. Mm-hmm. By the end.
She's not really into her husband.
No. Yeah,
her husband.
Yeah, played by Giovanni Ribisi, and
yeah,
that angle is pretty timeless, I think, and very relatable.
And I was surprised at how much comedy was injected into this movie as well.
Yeah,
because I definitely laughed at a few points.
Yeah,
it's pretty dramatic.
There's the Rat Pack photo shoot, with Bill Murray, which is very funny. And I think one thing about that scene, actually, that's in terms of the direction, is they make the snap of the camera really, really loud. Mm. And it kind of feeds that aggravation of having to sit there with these people who you don't even really understand what they're saying, and having this loud flash hit you over and over and over again. And you can see just how tiring that would be for someone in Bill Murray's position, especially since he doesn't really care at all about it. Yeah. He feels like a complete idiot doing it.
Bill Murray, I know we're here to talk about Scarlett Johansson.
That's okay.
But Bill Murray, I always like seeing him in dramatic roles. Like
I do too, yeah.
There's actually a lot of actors who are sort of pigeonholed into comedy that get their chance to do dramatic roles and really just like prove that they've got so much range. And like I can think of a few, Adam Sandler,
yeah,
Will Ferrell, Stranger Than Fiction, great movie.
Oh yeah.
Uncut Gems, which I just saw with Adam Sandler, amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if we were the ones talking about it, but I was telling someone that there's nothing better than seeing Adam Sandler be great in a dramatic role. Yeah. Like when he nails it, he really, really nails it.
Being in a movie he cares about being in.
But even more so in a dramatic role, not necessarily a comedy. Like with the Meyerowitz stories, the Noah Baumbach movie from a couple years ago that he was in.
I mean, I don't think there's a single Adam Sandler comedy that I would say I like.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
but anyways, Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
I think she still retains that sort of young innocence in this movie. She was still pretty young at this time, but also that's just sort of her character as well. She's just supposed to be like a... What's the word I'm looking for? I almost said foil. She's not a foil to Bill Murray, but like just sort of a support character, like while also still being having a main role in the movie. They're both support characters to each other.
Yeah.
They sort of, as you mentioned, lead opposite lives. So she sort of there to refresh his life, and he's there to sort of focus hers.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the scene where she's alone in Kyoto, where it's like a montage of her traveling, is very moving, and again, that it has that Sofia Coppola existential, relaxing feel to it, and she's a very effortless director, I think, in terms of her shooting style, which I think really adds to it. And I think that she and Bill Murray have very good chemistry together, which, again, it's a very uncommon relationship, similar to Ghost World with Thor Birch and Steve Buscemi. And I think that it just has that lingering shot on Scarlett Johansson so much, on her face, and how she's just reacting to other people and to the world, and just trying to find a focus point, no matter whether it's with people or whether it's with an idea or a certain part of culture. I think that direction really works in that respect. And I think that it's very simple, as with many Sofia Coppola movies, but I don't think that it's style over substance in this case, which is a criticism often with her. I think it has just enough of both sides to work.
Mm-hmm.
So,
would you say you have a favorite scene in this movie?
I like the scene. I do like the very end scene where they leave each other.
I agree.
And then also, I think similar to what I was talking about earlier, the scene where they're on the bed together and just talking about, Scarlett Johansson is asking if life gets easier or if marriage gets easier over time, because Bill Murray's, I guess, has an ex-wife or a wife who's very much on her way out of the relationship, and how she's desperate for guidance, but Bill Murray is like not the best person to ask when it comes to that, because he has no idea what to do with the rest of his life. And so those scenes, I think, that are so subdued but are very thought-provoking. And then also I really like the scene where the Giovanni Ribisi encounters and Anna Faris, I guess is how you say it, who's this very ditzy actress, and they were friends back years ago, I'm guessing, and Scarlett Johansson is just like so completely aware of their chemistry, their like flirty chemistry, that she's just kind of rolling her eyes and is even more ready to be out of that relationship, because clearly he does not care about her at all.
Right.
And he's so easily impressionable with and engaged by other things other than her. So there are a lot of standout scenes for me. What about you?
I like when they meet in the hotel bar.
In the bar, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I like the ending as well, when the audience sort of just left to imagine what was said.
Yeah, which is another Sofia Coppola signature, I think. Yeah, it's a very good movie, I think. I don't...
Melancholic.
It is, yeah, very much so. It wouldn't be in my very best of the 2000s, but it is still, I think, pretty deserving of its.
Would it be in your top 100 of the? Actually, it wouldn't have come out in the last decade, would it?
It would be
the last 2 decades.
The last 2 decades, top 100, yeah, it would be. Which I don't know how much that's saying. It's 100 movies, but yes, I think it would be in my top 100 of that for sure, or top 100 of that decade. Maybe top 50 of the 2000s.
Top 100 of all time?
No, no. Far from that. Because I actually like Marie. I know a lot of people don't like these two, but I actually like Marie Antoinette and the Bling Ring more than this.
Oh, I thought you were you're saying Murray, and I was like, not a lot of people like Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson.
No, they hate him. Everybody hates him.
Everyone loves Bill Murray.
No. Marie Antoinette and the Bling Ring are my favorites of hers.
I need to see Marie Antoinette.
It's very. I mean, it took me a couple viewings to really enjoy it. I'll say that.
I want to see it just because I really like style.
Yeah.
Like, if I go see a movie and everyone's like, oh, it's style over substance, I'm just like,
who cares?
I'm fine with
right?
that.
Who doesn't like style?
It's like
right?
Nicholas Winding Refn in a nutshell.
Yeah. Did you see his Amazon show that he made earlier this year?
No.
I feel like it came out. Nobody saw it. I didn't see any promotion
What
for
was
it.
it called? It sounds familiar.
I can't remember the name of it, but it's like super, super long, and it has Miles Teller in it.
Really?
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. All right. Well, anything else about Lost in Translation? A good soundtrack as well. And I guess one scene that's a favorite of many people is the karaoke scene, where Scarlett Johansson has the pink wig.
I think Tokyo is a good backdrop.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah. And that does not feel at all. It still feels of that era, but it works perfectly, I think, in this case. Just the look and the sounds and Sofia Coppola really directs and shoots that city well.
Yeah, Tokyo is a very, like, it can be a very busy or a very quiet place, very neon.
Yeah. And then also with Sofia Coppola, that she really has in most of her movies is showing a female character living in a man's world and how they're trying to have their own voice and have their own say.
Have you seen The Virgin Suicides?
I have, yeah. Oh yeah, that's another favorite of mine. Yeah, I like those three more than this. Not to say that this is bad at all, but the Virgin Suicides is quite good.
Don't let Swafford hear you saying that.
I know. Yeah, we should have had him on for this. I was not crazy about The Beguiled. I didn't love that one, which is her. Came out in I can't remember what year that came out. A couple years ago.
Recently.
Mm. All right. Well, out of 5, it's a 4.5 for me.
Yeah, I think I give this a 4.
Cool. Let's get on to Don John, which came out in 2013 and is written and directed by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And this was his first...
I actually didn't know it was directed by him.
Oh, yeah. This is his first feature debut. And it also stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Scarlett Johansson, Julianne Moore, Tony Danza, Glenn Headley, Brie Larson, and that's about it. And the synopsis is: a New Jersey guy dedicated to his family, friends, and church develops unrealistic expectations from watching porn and works to find happiness and intimacy with his potential true love.
I feel like I haven't seen Joseph Gordon-Levitt recently.
He's kind of been, he hasn't, I don't know if he's been doing much.
I feel the same way about Ryan Gosling. I haven't really seen him in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to look that up. I know there's been a Ryan Gosling movie recently, but anyways, Don John made $41 million against a budget of about $4 million, and so another pretty big hit for sure. And this one, was his debut, and I think there was a lot of buzz around that. And I think this did kind of predate a lot of the other actor turned directors that we've had over the last decade. I think he kind of came towards the beginning of the bunch, and I think out of all of those, this is a good bit better than a lot of the other ones we've seen. And I think that I both love and kind of dislike the direction. It's very self-aware, and it feels curious, so to speak. It like almost as if he's learning as he goes, which I'm sure he actually did. I think it has a lot of intentional repetition in terms of both certain shots and locations and how that's the exact same shot over the course of the film, like with the gym. There's a shot of him walking into the gym or walking into church, which again it's showing a day through his life, over and over. And so it's wanting to have that repetition. I don't know if it always works. It does occasionally feel a bit tiring in that respect, but I still think that
it just needed to be a little bit more montagey.
Yeah. There are some good montages, even so, and I think that there is this very enjoyable, at least from a man's perspective, that has this very self-aware bravado and masculinity to it, like macho man, which I personally find really funny for the most part. I think that all of the sexual humor with Joseph Gordon-Levitt commenting on how he goes about getting women and stuff like that
it's like a... Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
It's like a much better version of that movie with Jude Law, Alfie. Have you seen that movie?
I don't think I have.
It's like super old. I saw it on TV once and I was like, what is this? It's like Jude Law, and he just plays this like total womanizer. He like breaks the fourth wall and like talks to the camera about like pretty much the same types of things, and he's just like this really sleek, young, attractive like womanizer, and it's not very good and it's pretty offensive. This movie just sort of reminds me of that, but better.
Yeah.
More sensitive and more just good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Jude Law, pretty funny to see him in a role like that anyway.
Yeah, I think that's one other thing that really took people by surprise with this movie is not only did he direct it so well for a first-time director, but also the sleazy kind of character that he plays was so unlike his previous roles for a lot of time.
He's kind of a golden boy.
Yeah, he had just been in Dark Knight Rises, I guess, as Robin, and
that never went anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that was, even just for me, I think that was like, wow, he actually completely pulled off this New Jersey macho guy, meathead. And so I think he does very well in the movie. And I think the entire cast, for the most part, is very good. Everything is very heightened and over the top. Like Scarlett Johansson's accent and all of that is very intentionally Barbie doll, New York, New Jersey kind of girl.
It feels like a parody.
Oh yeah, totally. There are the scenes where they go to the movies and there's the fake films that they watch, the romantic comedies that have Channing Tatum and Anne Hathaway and Cuba Gooding Jr. and but they have different names, and it does manage to create this heightened romantic world, I think, very well. And I think that Scarlett Johansson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt have very, very good chemistry. And I think that probably the most interesting thing about the movie, even though it may be a pretty distinctive black, gray, and white, I think his relationship with Julianne Moore is also very uncommon and unexpected, where she's this more middle-aged woman who has had this family tragedy where her child and her husband have died, and she's this pretty lonely woman who helps to bring Joseph Gordon-Levitt out of his playboy mentality. Wow. And then with Scarlett Johansson, she's this person who only wants to date a very confident macho man, and by the end of the movie you can see how completely closed-minded she is, as opposed to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who grows, because the final scene with them is at that cafe, and she, saying, "Don't ever call me again," and she said, "You're not able to grow, so I could not be with you anymore." But of course it's the exact opposite. And I do think it's very funny. I think all of the sound cues, which are occasionally a little much, it's almost like Tarantino in that way, where the editing will coincide with certain pieces of soundtrack or other music cues where he'll look at a girl in a nightclub and there's that like 3-beat montage of them looking at each other, and then they're like grinding on the dance floor. Stuff like that is hilarious, and I think really shows the direction, how strong it is for this film. And I think that even though it doesn't always work, it makes it memorable. I think that I haven't really seen a lot of other movies done in this way. So, or many other romantic comedies, you know. Yeah. And I think, and also, despite all of the very over the top writing and dynamics, I think that there is still a very emotional sincerity to it, and where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is kind of finding a way to mature and really fall in love with someone as opposed to just having sex. And however, at the same time, the movie doesn't entirely present a realistic way to go about doing that for someone, because it's essentially showing here, if you have this addiction, just in the chance you meet a woman who's completely ready to change you or help you evolve, there's not really answers for that. And so maybe by the end that's a little frustrating, but again, it's a romantic comedy, so I'm not going to totally fault it for that. But I think everything with Joseph Gordon-Levitt trying to get with Scarlett Johansson is hilarious. All of the stuff at the nightclub and on their dates is very enjoyable. And I think especially if you're a guy, it's and I don't mean that really in a bad way, but I think if you're a guy, you might like it even more than just the average viewer. I don't know. I haven't talked to many women who have seen this.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they find it relatable.
Maybe so. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But
yeah, not to say that would be the case. It's just that I think it seems like more of a guy movie to me, I think.
Yeah.
But especially with the use of porn and everything in the movie, which apparently when it showed it premiered at Sundance, it had more graphic content, and apparently it was cut down a little bit for the theaters. So I don't know how much further it went with showing pornographic videos, but it's still for a mainstream movie, it's pretty.
I'm sure there's like an uncut version out there somewhere.
Yeah, but even for a mainstream film, it's pretty graphic at times. So
yeah, who knew why he wanted to make this? But you know.
Yeah,
it's there just, it is.
Yeah, it's a really interesting part of his career, I think, and I would love to see him do more.
Yeah, like you said, he's probably one of the first to do it.
Yeah.
You know, we've got like Natalie Portman.
Mm-hmm. And we had Brie Larson last year as well.
Olivia Wilde.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's
every time I go in the theater.
Oh, the Regal Theater.
Director of Booksmart.
Yeah. Also, I think that one scene that is effective, I think, and very, again, it showcases that emotion, that real sincerity that the movie has, is the scene where Don John is looking at, or he sees Julianne Moore reading the poetry or the novel outside of the night school, and she's just kind of sitting there crying, and he's just kind of watching her from afar, but it's a very moving moment, and you can just see exactly the kind of person that she is in terms of this emotional, vulnerable person. And I think that it's little quiet moments like that are enjoyable. And I think that the whole family dynamic is also pretty entertaining with Tony Danza, who's this even more of a macho meathead than his son. And Brie Larson comes in there very briefly.
Tony Danza. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's worth watching if you like uncommon or different kinds of romantic comedies, and I think that it's a good showcase for the actors as well, all being in pretty different roles than what they're used to of being seen in, you know.
Yeah.
And also the score is by Nathan Johnson, who just did Knives Out as well. Oh. Did the score for Knives Out, which it's a fun score because it's very music cuey. You know, it's all feeding certain bits of editing and direction. So
they announced a sequel to that, Knives Out.
I saw that. Yeah.
Also, didn't you this is unrelated. Oh, it's related to composers. Didn't you post an article earlier about Hans Zimmer?
Yes, he's taking over for No Time to Die, the James Bond film.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer, classic.
He's a guy. He's the best.
I apologize to the viewers that I just sound
listeners
completely the listeners that I just sound completely dead right now. Still just trying to get over being sick.
That's all good.
Being tired.
It's all good.
So I'm being real. You know.
You're being in the air for
deadpan right now.
Yeah, you're all good. Yeah. I don't know if there's too much else to say, but I think it's kind of underrated. I would go as far to say. You
think it's like cult status?
I wouldn't say it's a cult film, but I think that it seemed to get a lot of buzz when it came out, but I'd never really hear anybody talking about it. So I don't know how people feel about it, but I'm glad we're talking about it so we can get the word out.
Yeah, I remember when it was out. I just remember that time just hearing about it.
Yeah.
You know, I never watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think all of the porn commentary is also pretty funny, just because he's so completely lost in his own head and in this fantasy world but it's also grounded in a very masculine sincerity.
From the outside, probably just seems like a loser.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, of course, that's the whole point, is where when he's out at the nightclubs, he's like the cream of the crop, but when he's back in his own bed, he's like a total loser. So that really works. As blunt as it may be in terms of how it's shown, I think it works for the kind of movie that it is. It's not trying to be a epic drama or something. It's just a 90-minute comedy.
Yeah. Porn addiction is real.
Yeah, which again, he's tackling
it's a real thing,
a completely or a very modern addiction. So it's
pretty serious addiction too.
Yeah, and so I appreciate him for tackling it.
Dismantles intimacy.
Yeah, for sure. Just watch Shame with Michael Fassbender. That's the dramatic version of this.
You remember that guy from? Oh no, actually you weren't. For some reason, I was thinking this was the Coen Brothers class, but this was a screenwriting class I took at UNCG after I believe you graduated. A guy, we were supposed to be reading scenes from a movie that we liked or something, like
right.
showing the clip and then like reading the script and breaking down what that scene meant or what its purpose was for the movie.
I have a bad feeling about this.
And this guy did Shame, and he did it's just a very graphic scene, like dialogue wise. I don't think he showed any of the
sex.
Yeah, it wasn't a scene with naked Michael Fassbender, but it was like he was talking to a girl in a bar or something, and it was just extremely graphic, and everyone was very uncomfortable.
What was his point of showing it?
I think he just said he loves that movie or something. I was like,
interesting
movie to love.
I mean, I don't know if it says more about me or not, but I mean, I quote unquote love the movie. I think it's from a cinematic standpoint. It's, it's not a.
It's an accomplished movie
for sure. And it, unlike this one, it is NC-17. It has pretty graphic content, and so that's is by far my favorite of Steve McQueen's and one of my favorites of Michael Fassbender's for sure. And I think that is actually a pretty interesting companion piece to this movie, even though they are pretty vastly different. I think that one really shows like a person truly unraveling, whereas this one has a more comedic, self-aware feeling to it. And that one is by no means a feel good. It's like
it's pretty sad.
Yeah, pretty sad. Yeah, across the board, but effectively so.
Yeah, what was so funny about this guy showing this was he showed the clip and then he read the scene off the paper, like the script he had printed out. So then we just got to hear him read all this dialogue.
Oh, great.
It was like,
that must have been a pretty uncomfortable class.
Yeah.
Especially for the teacher, maybe. I would think.
There was one assignment where we were all assigned a random movie to figure out what its 3-act structure or whatever was, and blah blah blah. And my group, which I think Jenna was in, maybe, I don't really remember, but it was the movie Sideways.
Oh yeah, great film.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not my favorite movie in the world, but
one of Alexander Payne's better movies, I would say.
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Downsizing, I hear, wasn't great.
No, it was not. Yeah, not great. But hey, everybody's got a couple low moments. So, yeah. But no, I like Alexander Payne. I don't love Nebraska as much as some people do, but that's another good one. All right, well, out of 5,
I'd give this, surprisingly, I think a 3.
All right, it's a 4 for me. All right, well, I guess we can move on to Her, which also came out in 2013, about a month later after Don John. And it is written and directed by Spike Jonze. And it stars Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson, of course, Kristen Wiig, Rooney Mara, Olivia Wilde, Brian Johnson, Spike Jonze very briefly, Chris Pratt in a small role. And the synopsis is, in a near future, a lonely writer develops an unlikely relationship with an operating system designed to meet his every need.
You catch the Golden Globes?
I didn't. I saw updates and news pieces. I did not watch it though.
Joaquin Phoenix had a pretty wild speech.
That's what I heard. Yeah, very. I mean, fittingly so.
Ricky Gervais as well.
Yeah.
But 4 movies in a row where Scarlett Johansson sort of just plays a supporting woman in a very male-centric world.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah.
But she does break out of that eventually.
Oh, for sure.
Her later work and most recent work is very independent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which we've talked about a lot on the show. I think we've done a handful of movies of hers, like we were saying earlier. Anyways, this one made $48 million against a $23 million budget, so not a big hit, but it got pretty high acclaim across the board, and it was on my top 25 of the decade, maybe even the top 10 actually. So I'm a massive fan of this movie, and I don't love Spike Jonze totally, but I think for whatever reason in this, I think it's fantastic.
I always get him confused with Spike Lee.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, very different filmmakers for sure.
They both make pretty weird movies, though, I think.
Yeah.
Did Spike Lee make Do the Right Thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And he did Black Klansman, Chirac.
Did he do a movie with Edward Norton? Or was that Spike
Yeah,
Jonze?
he did. That might be the 25th hour? 23rd hour?
I think so.
I think that's it.
I've seen that movie. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
I remember it was definitely a Spike Lee movie.
Yeah. Well, this, I think, is a movie that I'd said it sometime on the regular show, where it's one of the few movies where when I'm watching it, I completely forget that I'm watching a movie because I'm so lost in my mind thinking about the ideas that it brings up. And I think it, similar to others we've talked about, it's pretty narrativeless, and it's very much about Joaquin Phoenix going through this dystopian world. Oh, and Amy Adams. I don't know if I said that. It also stars Amy Adams, of course. And it goes through this world of showing yet another lonely, very lonely man, and who meets this, or who gets the opportunity to have this operating system played by Scarlett Johansson, and how she's this very bright, invigorating soul, for lack of a better word. And it just helps him get a new perspective on life. And I think it brings up so many interesting ideas about modern love and also in some ways addiction to technology and other things like that, and how that can both help and hurt you in the modern age. And I think one of the most interesting is that twist towards the end where he realizes that he's not the only one that she's been talking to, which is a pretty heartbreaking moment, because I think that really comments on modern social media and technology, online dating for sure, because you could be on some site and be talking to someone. It's like you have the best connection of your whole life, and then at the same time on their side they could be talking to 10 different people, and you would have no idea.
Exactly. And
having that exact same level of connection. And so I think it just has so many great ideas that I always love watching it, because it just makes me think about so many different things, which doesn't always happen that much these days. So
yeah, I saw it when it came out. I'm a big fan too. Joaquin Phoenix is just amazing.
Yeah, he is.
Scarlett Johansson, even as a voice,
I think this
brings it.
This is my second or third favorite performance of hers. I think she's amazing in it, especially because it is only her voice. And I think that so many people who criticize Scarlett Johansson or who have criticized her, I think this is a perfect answer or response to that, where it's like not many people could carry this entire complex performance purely through voice.
I like stories about AI, involving AI and robots and things like that. I just think it's interesting. It's definitely where we're heading.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of interesting stories about it, usually more negative than not, them taking over and all that. But
yeah,
there are some positive ones as well. I think I mentioned on the show once I saw that movie I Am Mother.
Oh yeah,
which was
an
interesting story about sort of robots and AI raising and taking care of a little girl.
Yeah,
but but this is this is 4 movies in a row now that really were about lonely men.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Scarlett Johansson's early career.
Yeah, pretty much
hanging around lonely men.
yeah.
But I think Joaquin Phoenix does a really good job with like just subdued, depressed, like characters that used to be better or more like happier or
who've
more well known,
gone through a transition
in
many ways,
and now they're sort of just existing.
I would agree.
And I feel like it is difficult to talk about Scarlett Johansson's performance in this movie because she's not there. But as you said, I think as a voice, even she embodies this whole, like she has this whole personality and persona and character as just a voice.
Yeah.
And she's not even if I remember correctly, she doesn't have like a a robot body or anything. It's just like a little box or something, or like
Yeah, I mean, it's not even really that. It's just she's in the computer. I mean, he has like a Bluetooth kind of
Right.
thing, but
Yeah.
that's about it. Yeah.
so she doesn't even have like a physical form.
No, not
you
at
know?
all.
So
And now there is the scene that is kind of copied in Blade Runner 2049, where they have the
Anna de Armas
yeah
girlfriend thing,
the stand-in
hologram.
woman, the hologram, but in this it's a real person, and so that's another very unexpected idea. That's not my favorite part of the movie. I think that the first hour or so is where I think I enjoy it the most, where you see the flashbacks of Rooney Mara's and Joaquin Phoenix's relationship, and of course they're dating in real life now. Those two,
Who?
Rooney Mara and Joaquin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and where you see this once great relationship crumbling, or that has crumbled, and then you also have the dynamics with him and Amy Adams, who's a very grounded, wacky but very smart woman, and how you see how that friendship and then eventual romance blossoms. All the while you have this inner monologue, so to speak, with Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin. And I think that just watching him go through life, especially with how delicately and subtly the world is built, being somewhat near future, as the synopsis said, but also not being too far away to where you can't really see that happening. But in this, you could totally see it happening, with everybody being on their phones and talking to somebody that's not there, and I think he builds the world very well with just a few touches, I think. And it's just fun to watch Scarlett Johansson's character feed Joaquin Phoenix's actions. That's just such a cool piece of direction, I think. And it's very moving. I think that when you see the relationship between the two of them end, it is moving, like, because it was real love, at least for him, and so you can totally relate to having that romance be done, and all the while being just as happy that he goes back to Amy Adams, and they have a true human relationship. So
It's important.
yeah.
It's important not to fall in love with technology.
Yeah, for sure. And there is the song, I guess it's called the Moon Song in the movie, where Joaquin Phoenix is playing the ukulele and Scarlett Johansson's voice comes in. And there's just a lot of really delicate touches in the movie that I think really add detail and richness to it. And I think it's also very funny. It's wacky, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's zany.
Yeah. And I think that the concept of these letter writers, where he's just, Joaquin Phoenix is sitting there at a desk dictating these love letters from one person to another, in a, sometimes they're 80 years old and they pay people like him to write letters for them, which I think is a sweet idea. And you can see again how close he is to love, but not really being able to get it, because they're, as he says in the movie, they're just other people's letters. They're not his, and so he's just writing other people's stories for them,
Right.
Which could, in many ways, make him feel even more withdrawn and alone. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's again, like I said, it's one of my favorites of the decade, and just a favorite film of mine. I think it just hit me pretty instantly when I saw it in the theater. And there's the quote unquote sex scene where it fades to black and there's just voices, which is very ambitious. I think I don't know if that's my favorite scene in the movie, but I like it. I think it's effective. So, because I think you buy the romance.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you definitely buy that he is in love with her, and you buy that the AI is probably programmed to reciprocate.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so. But I agree about appreciating the message when he does go back to Amy Adams, and
who is amazing in this movie? Amy Adams.
Sort of wouldn't expect this movie to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
But I would say that it does.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that it has this kind of meta idea where Amy Adams is this filmmaker, and she shows Joaquin Phoenix and her at the time boyfriend, who is she's making this movie where she's showing someone sleeping, her mother sleeping, and there's just a long lingering shot of her mother asleep, and the boyfriend doesn't really get it, but Joaquin does, and I think it almost comments on the movie itself, where it's this just a guy sitting there talking to someone you don't see, and you could totally see why a lot of people would not like that or would not get it, which I know a lot of people who I've talked to don't like it, but then how the other half could be completely invested.
That's film.
Yeah. And we also have Olivia Wilde, who's the pretty vulnerable, skeptical date that he goes with that one night, and it just kind of crumbles so quickly. But I think she's very good in the movie. I think similar to other people we've talked about, when she's good, she can be really good. She just doesn't always pick the best.
Olivia Wilde?
Yeah. She just doesn't always pick the best projects to show that.
I liked her in Predator.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Oh, wait, no, that's Olivia Munn.
What? Oh.
Yeah. Same thing with her, though.
Completely.
She doesn't always pick great roles, but I think she's great in The Predator. Yeah.
My apologies.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Olivia.
Yeah.
Both have black hair.
Yeah. Anything else about her?
Olivia Wilde was in Tron.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the video game that he's playing with his fingers, and there's the character who's like talking at him, who's hilarious.
Who was Chris Pratt?
He's the like secretary guy at the office.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And this is, I guess, right before he did Jurassic World and other movies like that, where he broke out into the superstar that he is now.
He was in Wanted.
Was he?
I believe so.
I don't know.
I have to fact check that, but I believe he was. I remember realizing that, thinking that was pretty funny. He was like that office asshole.
Oh, really?
To James McAvoy's character.
Oh.
When he like hits him with the keyboard.
Yeah.
And the letters are like, fuck you.
Oh, yeah. It's been ages since I've watched that, but yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
But yeah, her. Amazing.
Yeah. All right, well, it's a heavy 5 for me.
Yeah, 5.
All right, well, let's get on to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which came out a year later in 2014. And this one is directed by the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe, who went on to do Civil War, as well as Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. Mm-hmm. And it stars a massive cast, along with Scarlett. It has Chris Evans, Samuel L. Jackson, Robert Redford, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Colby Smulders, Frank Grillo, Haley Atwell, Toby Jones, and a few others as well. And the synopsis is, as Steve Rogers struggles to embrace his role in the modern world, he teams up with a fellow Avenger and S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Black Widow to battle a new threat from history, an assassin known as the Winter Soldier. This one is the second Captain America film in the trilogy, and it made $714 million against a budget of $170 million, and was also pretty well received. And I can go ahead and say this is my favorite Marvel movie.
It's a lot of people's favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and a lot of people say that they think this one goes against the grain. It's kind of formula breaking, like one of the only Marvel movies, or one of the first, I guess, that is a genre film, and not.
Yeah.
It's a comic book movie, but it's also like a spy thriller.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I love Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson.
I would agree. Yeah, I agree.
I thought out of all of the huge cast of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, pairing those two together was just like a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, they've paired her together with Robert Downey Jr. before, and that was kind of like, and you know, with Mark Ruffalo, which I also don't really care for.
Yeah.
But her and Chris Evans are just like two puzzle pieces just fitting together, and like whenever they're in interviews together, they did an actors on actors.
I was gonna bring
Chris
that up.
Evans
I saw that. Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson, and I just thought that they had like perfect chemistry in this movie, and I love this movie.
Yeah. I agree. I think I've talked about it. We just recently on the regular show where we were talking about our favorite moments of the 2010s, and I brought up this movie because I think the Causeway ambush sequence where the Winter Soldier jumps onto the car, and there's that whole sequence. I think is the best action scene Marvel has ever done. I think it's such an intense, gritty sequence, and it's so well directed, so well choreographed. I think that when that moment comes, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, man, this is the best, because it's so intense. And I think that especially the hand-to-hand combat towards the end of that sequence is incredible with Winter Soldier and Captain America. And overall, I think that there are other great ones. Like there's the one where you first see the Winter Soldier and Captain America chases after him through the hallway and then onto the rooftop.
Does Black Panther show up in this movie? Or
no.
Am I thinking of Civil War?
That's Civil War, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that the action really elevates it, but I still think it's a pretty solid espionage thriller. It's nothing groundbreaking when it comes to that, but it's still pretty solid for a movie like this. And I think that this definitely put the Russo brothers on the map, you know. And I agree. I think Scarlett Johansson and Captain America, or Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans, are fantastic together, above the other dynamics that she's had. And I think she's a perfect Black Widow. She has the poise as well as the mysteriousness to her. And I think even from a physical standpoint, I think she carries herself well.
They've because the Marvel movies have been passed among so many hands, her character has sort of taken on a lot of different forms. Remember the Joss Whedon directed Avengers?
Yeah.
She had the Russian accent.
Yeah.
And then that faded off into,
thankfully,
you know, the ether. And now in this new movie, it looks like she's just not having the Russian accent at all. But David Harbour is doing a Russian accent. And,
God, that does not look great.
And what's her name? Frances Pugh?
Florence Pugh?
Florence Pugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, her sister also has the Russian accent.
Yeah.
But that might be interesting.
Just drop it. Just drop the accent. Don't need it.
Yeah. And she went from the red hair to the blonde hair, the long hair to the short hair.
Yeah. Which I think her looks, I think the design of the character throughout the MCU is very good.
Yeah, I thought Scarlett Johansson just had red hair for the longest time, but she's blonde.
No, man.
She's blondie.
Yeah. And I think Robert Redford is a kind of a cool choice as well. I think he's pretty good in it. And I think he and Samuel L. Jackson work together quite well. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the best parts about this movie is it's not overly complicated. It's pretty self-contained for the most part. aside from a few little tie-ins to other movies. But it's very much just closed off with its own world and its own story. And I think it's pretty quickly paced. It's not, the exposition isn't terrible most of the time. And I think that it's directed and written pretty fluidly. And so it keeps going pretty well. And yeah, I think one small issue is I think the third act becomes a little too heavy CG for me. And it's a little long as well. I think that by the end you're just kind of ready for it to wrap up. But there are still moments in that final section that I like. And also, we haven't talked about, I think, not only the Winter Soldier, but I think Sebastian Stan is one of my favorite parts about the MCU. Which I know is maybe a hot take. I know a lot of people don't like Sebastian Stan.
Really?
In this, yeah.
I just feel like he's not given a lot to do.
Yeah,
maybe that's why.
Maybe so. I think the Winter Soldier is the best villain of the MCU as well. I think the design and Sebastian Stan, I think he has a good, when he needs to be intimidating and violent, he gets that completely. But also when there's moments where he is like the scene where he's tied up after the causeway attack and has the electricity shot into him. I think that he has that vulnerability to him where he's trying to figure out who Captain America was, because he knows that he knows him somehow, but he's so lost because of this program that he's been thrown into. And I like him a lot, and I don't think he gets enough credit for making that character very memorable. And he and Chris Evans are very good together in terms of chemistry. So, yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think it's if I had to choose one Marvel movie to watch, it would be this one, I think. And I think the opening ambush on the ship is also very good, where Captain America's saving those agents. I think that's a cool sequence as well.
Gotta talk about that elevator fight scene.
That's another good one.
Everyone loves that.
Yeah. And
it'd be remiss not to talk about that.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's directed in a way that feels different from what had come before. And for the most part, even the other Russo brothers films, it feels pretty unlike those. It's very gritty and, or as gritty as it can be for a movie like this, a PG-13 comic book movie. It's worth watching if you haven't seen it yet. And it might also be a good opening point for people who may not be super familiar with comic book movies or may not be a huge fan of it, because there's not really a lot of superhero moments in it. It's pretty subdued when it comes to that a lot of the time. And yeah, it's a great movie, Jacob. Great movie.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, anything else?
No.
All right. Well, I guess we can get on to our last movie.
Oh, you didn't rate it.
Oh, it's a 5. It's a 5 for me.
Yeah, 5.
Cool. Thank you for that. Good catch.
No problem.
And yeah, let's get into the last film, which is Lucy. And this one also came out in 2014, about a month or two later. And it's written and directed by Luc Besson, who also did Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets that we talked about a couple months ago.
Love that movie.
And he did The Fifth Element, Leon the Professional, La Femme Nikita, and last year he did Anna.
Very interesting career.
Very. And it stars Scarlett Johansson, Morgan Freeman, Min-Sik Choi, and that's about it. And the synopsis is: a woman accidentally caught in a dark deal turns the tables on her captors and transforms into a merciless warrior, evolved beyond human logic.
Yeah. Similar to the Bradley Cooper movie.
Limitless. Yeah.
Same
And
concept.
yeah, and Lucy made $463 million against the budget of $40 million. So a big hit for sure in her career.
Because people think this movie's terrible.
A lot of people do. It got okay reviews, actually.
I love this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Do tell.
Unironically.
Okay. Do tell.
I just think it's so preposterous. I like dumb things. Like when things are just so over the top, preposterous, ludicrous, ridiculous, just dumb, stupid. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, who doesn't, right? Who doesn't?
I can't get enough of it. You know, that's why I love, you know, I love a lot of different like animes, and just the Japanese are great at doing that, just making just ridiculously over the top, completely dumb, just like what in the world is happening,
right?
And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. My friend and I we're just constantly like we love that, you know, like
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like when we went to see the newest Predator, we were like, this is just ridiculous. We're like, we love it because it's just so out of left field.
Yeah.
You know, and most people look at that and they're like, that means it's bad. I'm like, no, that means it's great.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
You know, so
I'm the same way a lot of the time.
Lucy is an incredible movie. My
best of the decade.
Just jumping straight to the end, my favorite scene is when she you know, spoilers, just turns into a massive just black gooey computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great cinema.
Love
Great
that.
cinema.
It's just the movie's like pretty normal up until that point. You know, depending on your definition of normal.
Yeah, quote unquote
like
normal.
It's like, you know, it doesn't really go too far out of the realm of human logic, and then that just takes it all the way. Like it just completely loses all logic.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah. I think I don't like it as much as you. I like it. I think Luc Besson has one of the most prolific yet inconsistent careers out of anyone in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess he wrote the Taken movies, and he writes a lot of scripts that he does not.
Really?
Yeah, he does a lot of scripts that he does not direct, and so he's constantly working.
He has a particular set of skills.
Yeah, and I think that he does have some great films. Like, I mean, we talked about Valerian, which I love, and
I love it.
I also love the other ones that I mentioned at the beginning. I think that he does, however, have a ton of pretty terrible movies that he's attached to one way or the other, and he repeats himself a lot when it comes to these like badass Terminator assassin kind of characters. But I think in this, he manages to be both. He manages to be confident in both how smart he thinks it is and also how dumb it is. Like, he's very confident in the Sarah Connor-esque style of Lucy, but also he's tries to inject like biological history of predators and all this, which in some ways is rooted in reality, but also within the context of the movie is completely ridiculous.
And she evolves beyond human understanding.
Yes. I think that with how confidently he directs the character changing into this superhuman person, I think is fun for the most part. One thing I cannot stand is when she's like the pills are going off inside her and she's like rolling on the ceiling and the wall. I cannot stand that. Like, that's stuff like that goes too far, I think. And I think that he also has an issue with bringing up an interesting idea and then throwing it away for action and gore, which again, he can do that well, but I think it does have a few missed opportunities in terms of exploring some interesting ideas. However, that being said, I do love how the movie gets going right off the bat. Like the first scene, you're in that world. It's not really, there's no setup. And
so are you not a fan of the ending then?
The ending is fine. It's not my favorite part of the movie, but I think that all of the stuff with like her hair color changing and how she can read people's minds, like, or like the memory of people is ridiculous. But I think within the context of the movie, it's good.
The science is not there.
No, by no means.
That's I guess that's like one thing that frustrated me about this movie and Limitless, you know, because there was a period of time where someone somewhere, like some scientist, claimed this theory of the using the 10% of your brain, and then everyone sort of latched onto it, but it's like complete pseudoscience. But now we've got these 2 movies about it and a TV show.
And I think
listen to a TV show.
I think this is better than Limitless.
Really?
Yeah.
Limitless is kind of like a comedy, I guess. I mean, Bradley Cooper, Hollywood's funny man.
Yeah. And I do appreciate this one for being R-rated as well.
Was it?
I thought so. Pretty sure.
I guess there's some pretty gory stuff.
Yeah. And I think that the journey, or the one thing that is impressive in terms of Scarlett Johansson, is I think that the arc of the character is pretty enjoyable to watch in terms of her starting out as this very oblivious, vulnerable college girl, and then quickly becoming this incredibly confident powerhouse superstar, action star. And so I think that in terms of how her performance evolves is pretty impressive when it comes to her. And I think she really saves it. I think if you didn't have the right person in this role, it would be a complete disaster. And I think she saves it a lot of the time. And and so it's good she's the center of attention, you know.
Did you watch it last night?
Just earlier today, actually.
Earlier today.
Yeah.
It's fresh in your mind.
Fresh off, yeah. And I saw it when it was in theaters and everything. And
in theaters, really?
It had been a while since I had watched it.
I saw it with a friend like 7 years ago. Whenever it had come out on streaming or DVD or something when I was in the first couple of years of college. And then I was like, I have to show this to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I showed it to my other friend who I knew would enjoy it. So I'd only seen it twice. But I'd watch it again.
Yeah. It's only about 90 minutes as well. So it's in and out. And it's also very, for better and for worse, I guess you can say, it's pretty dense. Each scene really has weight to it when it comes to the film. Not to say that always works, but it's still, every scene has a purpose, I think, and it's pretty rich with information, and something's happening one way or the other. And the movie feels longer because of that, but not really in a bad way. Like it has so much to it and so much going on, and it's only 90 minutes. However, I think that it feels closer to like an hour 45, 2 hours, but it's still, you're glad that you're there, regardless of how ridiculous it may be, I think. And that really does go back to the confidence of how he directs it. Because if it didn't have that, you wouldn't take anything seriously, I don't think. In a manner of speaking, you know.
Was I here to talk about Valerian?
Yeah, you and I did that on
remember.
the bonus show, yeah.
What were we doing that for?
The movie flops that have like the biggest box office bombs. We talked about that in Jupiter Ascending.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I think Luc Besson, his films very much come from like the Terminator, and also some of his films that he started, like La Femme Nikita, with these gung-ho female heroines.
He has kind of two modes. He has like the female assassin Terminator-esque mode, and then he has the Space Odyssey mode.
Mm-hmm.
Space opera.
Yeah. And last year he did Anna, which is like a very La Femme Nikita film. Like he rips off himself.
Is that... Am I thinking of... Was that the movie about...
It's a model
kind of
turned...
looked like Atomic Blonde.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah.
She's a model who becomes an assassin.
I wanted to see that, but it kind of just came and went.
Yeah.
Real fast.
I think you'd like it. And he so like I said, he does repeat himself a lot when it comes to this kind of role, but it's such a Besson signature that it's okay, at least in my mind. I don't really mind it all that much, and I think in this he does inject a lot of sci-fi elements, which changes it up. It's not just a realistic spy thriller or something. He does at least try and bring in new ideas, and regardless of how silly they may end up being, it's still something different. So,
Beyond the Professional.
Yeah.
It's probably one of his most well-liked.
Yeah, I would say so.
The Fifth Element. I don't know. Would you call The Fifth Element a cult movie, or would you?
I would say so.
Yeah.
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 It's not a movie that I put in high regard, but I still... It's ambitious to a fault, but I applaud its ambitiousness.
I just don't think Mila Jovovich is a very good actress.
She's not amazing. No.
See how she is in Monster World.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see Anna, but the John Wick movies have kind of ruined action movies for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, if it's not as good as John Wick,
Yeah.
it's not good. Get it out of here.
That's fair. That's fair. They've set a pretty high bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and Scarlett Johansson, I think this is another role. It's not, I mean, she doesn't have as much to do, but I think the work that she brings to it in terms of her performance, I think it's subtle because the style and the action is so front and center, but I think if you actually watch her arc, it's pretty impressive for a movie like this. And while it's not a favorite of mine coming from her, it's still a pretty solid, fun thriller. Yeah. Cool movie. All right. Well, anything else, Jacob?
Not.
One thing, and it'll be in my top 5 lows, but the scene where she's talking to her mother in the hospital on the phone, and she's saying like how I can feel everything, and like I just have this new understanding of life and everything. There's this weird scene of her saying, I remember the taste of your milk in my mouth.
Oh yeah.
It's so unnecessary.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's like the Joaquin Phoenix bathing his mom in Joker, and you were never really here. Like, it's such a unnecessary moment that and also one thing, along with these female heroines or these strong heroines, he loves women carrying 2 silenced pistols walking through like a hallway. Scarlett Johansson does it in this. The girl in Anna does it as well. He loves women with 2 silenced pistols. That's like his
signature.
That's like the foot fetish for Tarantino. He has to have it in every movie.
Yeah. There's a comedian that I follow that put up his top 10 movies of the next decade.
Okay.
And one of them was Quentin Tarantino. It's Just Feet.
Oh God. Just watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and you will see
Yeah. I think that's probably the most, puts it on display the most, other than From Dusk Till Dawn, which he did not direct, but He didn't direct it, right?
Did-
Have I heard about that?
he
From
d-
Dusk Till Dawn.
No, he didn't.
He like acts in it
Yeah.
with George Clooney, and Salma Hayek like sticks her foot in his mouth or something, and that's like
Yeah.
that's pretty apparent.
Not great. Not great. All right. Well, it's 3.5 for me.
Really,
3.5.
I give it a 4.
All right.
I'm surprised it's so high for you though.
I mean, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, can't fault it for that. So, all right. Well, I guess we can end off with the reviews done. We can do our top 5 highs and lows,
Okay.
which is pretty much just our top 5 top and bottom moments of the movies we talk about. If you're new to the show, Jacob, should we start with highs?
Sure.
You want to go? Or should I?
Sure. Probably not going to rank them, but here are 5 highs.
Okay.
Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson's chemistry in The Winter Soldier. Scarlett Johansson's personality and performance in Her. The meeting scene in Lost in Translation in that hotel bar. Sort of the first connection of those characters. I just love the end of Lucy. I don't know. It's great.
The black goo is great.
It's just, it's so out there. I love it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've almost got one for every movie. So I'll take my last one from Ghost World when they first meet Steve Buscemi,
Where he's drinking the milkshake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good scene. All right, well, my number 5 is the emotional sincerity of Don John amongst all of the very silly comedy and over-the-top nature of it. Number 4 is the world building of Her. Just, again, like we said, just very subdued and subtle, but very effective. Number 3, the Causeway attack in Winter Soldier. Number 2, the ending scene in Lost in Translation, where Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray say goodbye to each other. And you're just left with so many interesting questions and ideas. And then number 1, the Scarlett Johansson's overall diverse performances and character choices, especially with Black Widow and Her. And I mean, her favorite of mine is Under the Skin, but we talked about that on the regular show. And probably Marriage Story is another top one of mine.
I need to get around to that.
Yeah.
Isn't it just on Netflix?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I need to watch that.
Yeah. All right, let's hit those lows.
I would say sort of just the overall general datedness of Ghost World. Probably just the pseudo-science aspect of Lucy. I love the movie and I love how over the top ridiculous it is, but I feel like it tries too hard to want to make us believe that this could happen.
Yeah.
Or something. It's almost like trying
The overconfidence.
yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like it's trying to say this is a nonfiction movie or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to steal one of yours
Okay.
about that just bizarre line from the hospital scene, because I definitely agree.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just have to also
Thank you.
put that forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I brought that up.
Something sort of all-encompassing. I don't much care for the fact that Scarlett Johansson was sort of put in a lot of roles, even in movies we didn't talk about, like The Man Who Wasn't There, where she's just like a female presence,
Yeah.
meant to build up lonely men that don't really know
I would
what to do
agree,
with
yeah.
their lives.
Yeah.
Not that
She got kind of pigeonholed.
yeah, not that all these movies are bad because of that, but it's just like I kind of wish she just was allowed to sort of branch out more, but she did later.
Yeah. If you really look at her career, that's really a lot of what it is. Even with like the Black Dahlia or something like that. Even a movie like the island is kind of refreshing because she's like one of the main characters in that
Right.
that action adventure,
Yeah. And
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think what you brought up earlier, I think she has finally been able to break out of that a lot
yeah.
with more straightforward leading roles, and which is really nice to see. So
Okay. And lastly, we'll go back to Ghost World and talk about she's a little weak in that movie.
I would say not Steve Buscemi, but I would say everybody but Steve Buscemi is a little subpar.
So
Yeah.
so that'll do it for me.
All right. Number 5, what you just said, I remember the taste of your milk in my mouth line from Lucy. Not great. Just cut that, Luke, please. And number 4, the unanswered questions or solution to Don John in terms of a man starting with this addiction, then ending up where he does. It's kind of fill in the blanks yourself, but it doesn't really present a rational solution to that, which is not a huge thing, but it's on rewatches. I did kind of think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, this may be a hot take for you, Jacob, I don't know, or for Marvel fans. I do not like the design of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, or at all, with played by Anthony Mackie. I think it looks goofy.
I don't really like the design of a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe characters,
perfect.
to be fair. I think they try and I guess they think the original designs look too stupid or something, and so they try and make it more modern and be like, instead of magic, we're gonna be techie or whatever, like. Yeah, and Falcon's kind of robot wings, I don't really much care for. One example, when I had one like pretty good example that was like Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home. In the comic books, he just does magic. He's a magical person, but they made it science.
Yeah.
In the movie, and they do that with a lot of the characters.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, but I agree.
Yeah. Number 2, Scarlett Johansson rolling around on the walls and the ceiling in that one scene in Lucy, which I just talked about. Just too goofy, I think, and makes it even more ridiculous. Takes you out of it, I think. And the number 1, the dated cynicism in Ghost World. Dated 90s cynicism, early 2000s. So
Got it.
Yeah, well, that's about it, I think, Jacob. I think we might try and do some more of these. I like doing these actor profiles like we've done with Scarlett Johansson and DiCaprio and Brie Larson.
I was gonna say, request if we could do another director
Sure.
pretty soon.
Who do you want to see? Who do you want to tackle?
I was thinking, I know you like to keep it to more recognizable people.
It depends.
We're not too obscure, but I was thinking either Edgar Wright or Ben Wheatley.
Oh, yeah.
They've both got movies coming up.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they both do.
And I've been watching a lot of Edgar Wright's movies recently. And I was just thinking the other day about how I wanted to rewatch some of Ben Wheatley's movies because I know High Rise is very divisive.
Oh, yeah.
And Free Fire I love. Kill List.
Yes.
He's got a movie coming up called Freak Shift. And then Edgar Wright has The Last Night in Soho.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be down for that.
So,
I think Ben Wheatley especially would be kind of a cool
be an
choice.
interesting show.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot to unpack with Ben Wheatley.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd be down for that for sure. So we can figure that out. All right. Well, yeah. Well, thanks so much again for donating and downloading. We hope you liked it as much as we did. And all those donations go to help support the show. And so keep donating, Yeah. And you can just donate directly through thefilmbuds.com and make sure to follow us on social media, all of that stuff, if you haven't already. And yeah, keep an eye on the regular show. It's a weekly show. and it's on pretty much every major streaming platform. Jacob, as always, man, thanks for taking the time, making the drive.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's always good to see you. I'm glad holidays went well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you're feeling better as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I guess
First podcast of 2020 for me.
Yes, yeah. You're first. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you next time.
Sure.